Xavi is considered as possibly the greatest midfielder of all time, and at Barcelona he was the metronome for years, the one who dictated the pace of the game, the one who saw everything, the one who was impossible to press, the ideal Barcelona midfielder. After his departure, a big gap was left, and for years no one was really able of replacing his role in the team. Messi was even maybe the one who did so through playing in a deeper role, and now Pedri might be a candidate to replace him, but Barcelona have tried other things to replace Xavi as well. One of those was the Brazilian Arthur Melo, the big 22-year-old talent at the moment they signed him. At Barcelona he never really fulfilled his potential though, and now Barcelona fans have completely forgotten about him. I mean, you've probably completely forgotten about this guy too. So where is he now, and why did he fail at Barcelona? That's what we'll discover in this video, so make sure to stay tuned. In the summer of 2019, Barcelona signed 22-year-old Arthur Melo from Brazilian club Grêmio for 31 million euros. He was seen as the kind of midfielder with a lot of composure. He wasn't the fastest or most aggressive player, not that great at recovering balls, but his passing and vision were great, his ability to read the game and know when to play what pass was great, and he wasn't easy to put under pressure. When Barca fans heard of those qualities, of course only one player came to mind: Xavi. Since 2015, the Barcelona legends had never been replaced. They lacked a player in midfield with Xavi's ability to control the game. That's why in those years after Xavi, Barcelona had a hard time being in control of games and dominating their opponents. Arthur seemed like the hope of Barcelona for the future to have that kind of player again. This seemed to be a great signing. But in that first season, Arthur didn't have it easy. He was given regular chances by Ernesto Valverde, and every now and then he would impress with some great through balls, but he didn't do more than that really. He was struggling to really fit into Barcelona's midfield together with Busquets and Rakitic, to adapt to La Liga and to make his impact on the game. Very often he would just have games where you didn't really notice him and where he didn't do anything special. And while that's a good thing for players like defenders and defensive midfielders, you want to be a player that people notice as a controlling central midfielder. You want to be the player with the most ball touches, the player who dictates everything, the player who sets up attacks, the player who cannot be pressed. He wasn't really showing that. He was just average, far from what Xavi was some years earlier. That's why Valverde didn't even play him in every game anymore after a while and often played Arturo Vidal instead of him. A very different kind of midfielder, more aggressive, cutthroat and way more dynamic. It's not like he was going to replace Xavi, but Arthur didn't do that either with his mediocre performances. Arturo Vidal at least added something. Arthur was just a shadow of what people expected him to be. That first season was just not really a success for him. But hey, that was just his first season. Maybe he just needed some time to adapt. Well, his second season wasn't much better. With the signing of Frenkie de Jong, there was even more competition now. And when Arthur did play, it was just the same old story again. He wasn't bad, and every now and then he would have a great performance, but he had a hard time performing on a good level on a consistent basis. At the same time, Busquets was still a great player, Rakitic was very hard to compete with, also because Valverde had an obsession with playing Rakitic in every game it seemed. Arturo Vidal had already provided more value to Barcelona than Arthur the season before, and Frenkie de Jong was younger, more promising, had come for a bigger transfer fee and played better than Arthur. Some Barcelona fans dreamt of a future midfield with Arthur and Frenkie de Jong as central midfielders. And while Frenkie de Jong has been continuing on a path to become that midfielder up to this day, Arthur just didn't seem to have it in him to make it at Barcelona. Fans loved him and wanted him to make it, but the step from Brazilian football to Barcelona was seemingly too big for him to handle. That summer, rumors were starting to emerge of Arthur leaving Barcelona, and eventually he left the Blaugrana in a swap deal with Juventus for Miralem Pjanic. This was a transfer that came under a lot of criticism, as Pjanic and Arthur were two similar players. It seemed like Barcelona had swapped Arthur with another Arthur who was just 8 years older. That didn't really make sense. To be honest though, Pjanic was kind of a better player, but he didn't have the greatest of impacts at Barcelona next season either. The question now of course is, why didn't Arthur make it at Barcelona? Well, there's a lot of players with talent out there in this world, but at Barcelona you need more than just talent. You also need to fit well into the team, you need to be adapted to European football, you need to understand the role of a Barcelona midfielder, and most of all, you need to be able to handle the big pressure and expectations. Arthur wasn't able of any of these things if you ask me. He came in after a long period without any young promising midfielders at Barcelona, so the expectations for him were really high. And I honestly think that he maybe just wasn't as good as our expectations of him made it out to be. I think that he was a promising midfielder, but we expected him to be the next Xavi. We expected him to lead our midfield for the next 10 years. He might have been a talented midfielder, but maybe not that talented. It would last another couple of years before Barcelona would really discover what the meaning of talent was when players like Pedri and Xavi started to emerge. Compared to Arthur back in 2009, they definitely did a way better job of breaking through in Barcelona's first team. And if you see how they're doing now, you really think what fans were even thinking when they expected someone like Arthur to lead Barcelona's midfield for the future. This guy was eventually just not supposed to be the next Xavi. That role was always meant for someone else fans just need to be a little more patient for. The other big question is, where has Arthur himself been ever since his time at Barcelona? Well, in his first season at Juventus, he was kind of a regular player. He didn't start every game, but he had a spot in the team and was important for Juve's midfield. But this Juventus team wasn't the same great one as some years before anymore, and Arthur wasn't performing like the next Pirlo either. There was no sudden difference compared to how he did at Barcelona. In the season after that, it was kinda the same story. He did play his fair share of minutes for Juventus and he had his importance for their midfield, but he wasn't their star player, and they could perfectly play without him too. In the following season, he went on to join Liverpool, but there he had a hard time getting into the starting lineup, before getting an injury that would keep him out for most of the season. Eventually, in that season at Liverpool, he rarely played any minutes, and it would have probably been better for him to just stay at Juventus. There he wasn't too important of a player either though. He did play a lot of games, but his impact was limited. So after Barcelona, Arthur hasn't really become better than what we as Barça fans knew him as. Maybe he has even declined. After a season of now being on the sidelines, he has moved to Fiorentina, where he has been playing regularly, but as a 27-year-old player, it's fair to say that his career has been a big disappointment up till now. Some Barça fans actually expect Arthur to really be the next Xavi and be one of Barcelona's most important players at this point. But well, look where he is now. His career has really been disappointing, but I hope for him that he still gets the most out of it. That was it for today's video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and feel free to share your own opinion in the comments down below. Forza Barça, Forza Arthur I guess, and have a good day.